Hello, hello, hello. January 27th, 2023. Today is day 28 of this continuous live stream. And I believe I'm pretty far behind on updating the resources on my Gumroad. Now, we have 23 up there. So I have 5 days to update. I think I'm pretty far behind on my website as well, on my daily posts. Yeah, I got a lot of updating to do. That will be this weekend. So for those of you who have purchased my Gumroad resources for this entire live stream, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And expect to have an update for the last 5 live streams this weekend sometime. And of course, I'll email you when that happens. But if you want to know what I'm talking about, we're doing this live stream continuously, and all the documents, the digital documents that I go through, I put up on a Gumroad, and you can buy them for $10 or get 50% off by using the code CB50OFF for $5. Growing collection. Hopefully they're helpful. That's the purpose of it. Good morning, thinker. Thank you for joining me. We have pretty much, we finished the basic drawing for the head of the tiger. And today we're going to be working on the body. We added some to the tiger. We started out with this face, and then we looked at an older tiger and added a bit of a mane to him, to them. Not sure, could be male, could be female. Looked at a ton of pictures of tigers, and like all cats, you have to do a bit of research to figure out sex, I believe. So we're going to start working on the body here. And for that, we're going to be using our original image, which was the image of our Siberian tiger, which is not showing up right now. Oh, because I have all these background layers above it. Let's move this guy up here. There he is. Or there they are. Now, this is a Siberian tiger, and one of the differences between a Siberian and a Sumatran tiger, and we're going for a Sumatran tiger, by the way. The difference is the stripes. The Sumatran, I did some research on this, not a ton of research, just, some quick research, but the Sumatran tiger stripes are closer together. I'm gonna stay zoomed out because I'm gonna look at, I know I have some other, that's a really good one. And that one there shows the front really well. Probably won't use this, except for coloration. This tiger here is really great because the Sumatran tiger is a lot more orange compared to the Siberian. Actually, you can see next to each other the differences there. Although this image was labeled as a Sumatran tiger, but it looks a lot like our Siberian tiger. Interesting. Looks almost exactly like our Siberian tiger. Most of what we see on our tiger, the one that we're drawing, painting, is the front chest and the front legs. And what I want to do is I'm looking at images of Sumatran tigers, and I want to make sure that I get at least the stripes on the front half of the tiger correct. You know, get some kind of general idea of how they're supposed to be laid out. Thick or thin, a lot of them, and not so much, you know, things like this. Yeah, from all the images that I'm looking at, I'm actually scrolling through on another screen. At least the front end of a Sumatran tiger doesn't look very much different than a Siberian tiger. So I think we can get away with just going with the Siberian tiger image, at least on the front. Yeah, definitely. That's what we're going to do. Okay. Got our brush going. This is a drawing brush that is it comes with Krita. I made some small adjustments to it, but wow, I'm zooming in way too much. Okay, here we go. Now this should go pretty quickly, I would say. We have the general shape already in there. Actually, I did some tracing for the general shape, which I still feel bad about that, but what I'm going to be doing on here is looking for areas that show depth. From doing the human body for years, these are things that I know to look for, and I see one right here that's really amazing. That's going to help us out tremendously. It's where the side here, let me zoom in on this so you can see. I'll just tab out so I get more screen real estate. So this side here goes back behind, and actually I could probably affect that a bit better. Let's erase this part that I just put in. I could turn it quicker. And I don't think this is such a large lump there. So this side here goes back behind, and then we have the front leg that comes out. These little things, you wouldn't believe it, but your brain, your eyes, or at least the brain and the eyes of the people that are looking at this will pick that up. We are masters of recognizing subtle things within bodies, not just human bodies. Especially human bodies. I mean, the subtlety that we can pick up in eyes is tremendous. Likeness is based on millimeters. It's kind of like when, and I bet you most of you have experienced this, where in a crowd really far away, you can pick out someone that you know just by the way that they're moving, which is really interesting. So here's another one where this side of the body of the tiger kind of flows down, and then the back of the tiger goes off that way, and then it ends in there somewhere, and then picks back up again right here. So yeah, all of this subtlety, it matters. It does matter. So we covered up a lot of our stripes here, which is cool. Not a problem. We got a big bushy beard, or tiger mane. Wonder why they call it manes on lions rather than a beard. Or I wonder why they call it a beard on us rather than a mane. I have a beard. Seems so much more interesting if I called it a mane. Did you do all the steps in the process you're showing us here, albeit 100% traditional, for the painting that won your best in show? That's a good question. Let's look at that. Here's the tigers I was going through. So if you go to my website, chrisbevan.com, you'll see some of this. So paintings, and then this one here. And then I can just quickly scroll all the way down and you'll be able to see like the beginning of this. Oh, no video there. Yeah, it's when we were doing something different. So the beginning of this day, it was, I drew it out and then I did the background really quickly. But you can see I did do a grid, and this was based on an image, but look how big that grid is. This is what I kind of described to a lot of people, because this is a 20 by 30 canvas, the same size we'll be painting the tiger in. I say to a lot of people that if you're doing a grid, try and make your grid bigger and bigger the more you paint, so that you can challenge yourself a bit more every day. I bet you I could find, if I spent a little bit of time, I could find the image that I painted this from. Now, I know it was an image from New Masters Academy. I had a subscription there, and I pulled down a bunch of images when I had a subscription. Let's see. There it is. And this is before I was using Krita as well. So what you're going to see is Photoshop come up. Yep. So here's the original image. And there's some extra processes in here. And this is one thing. So we're looking ahead of what's going to happen with the tiger as well. Is you'll see that whatever image that we create within our digital workup here, we'll do some type of grid, maybe this big, maybe smaller. Could be this big and then like a smaller grid around the tiger's head. And then we'll work from this. We'll get it to a point on the canvas where we can take a really good photo of it from the canvas and then use the grid to check our drawing to make sure that everything's good. And then I also have some influences here. So I have a few paintings. So this one here, this one that I'm turning on and off, that's by Anne Gale. Gale. This is by Liberace? No, yeah. Robert Liberace. Close up of one of his paintings. Another one by Anne Gale. And I forget this artist's name, but fantastic art. So some some influences on this painting. Yeah, original drawing overlay as well to check. That's how the drawing started out on the canvas. So yeah, so it did start digitally, not exactly how we're doing right now. I've gotten a bit more specific, I guess, within how I'm working things up. Hopefully that's helpful. Alexi says, hello, Christopher. I've never drawn from line to color. I paint with color right away, trying to sculpt shapes and volume. Any pros and cons with such technique? It seems to me it's much faster. Yeah, so you're talking about kind of like just going for it right away, like a block end. You know, the pro on that is you got it right. The pro on that is that it's faster. The con on that is it faster? It feels faster in a lot of ways. But here's what I would challenge you to do. And I don't know your skill level, so a lot of this is going to depend on your skill level, especially with that technique. But try working up a drawing in graphite or charcoal, an exact drawing on the canvas first, okay? And time yourself. So it doesn't have to be a big painting. Do this with a small painting, so if you hate it, you can get through it pretty quickly, right? If you hate the process of drawing first. So draw it out first, and then begin working up in paint. And time that whole thing. And then do the same thing again, like with the same subject matter, you know, maybe from photo or whatever you're working from. Do the same subject again, but this time just draw it out on canvas with paint. Block it in how you normally do, how you like to do it, and time that as well. And you might want to time how long you spend on corrections as well. You might find that you get to a point where you feel like you have a finished painting, but then the corrections take you a lot of time. I've discovered that within my own work, where I used to always draw out just in oil right away, but I found myself correcting so often and so much and spending so much time correcting that it was almost just not worth it. It was like, oh, I'm spending the exact same amount of time, or I'm spending more time on the corrections. I can't remember which one it was. I think I was spending more time on corrections than anything. And you know, it really depends on what you're painting as well. A friend of mine, Michael Orwick, who does these amazing landscapes. He's on YouTube as well. Orwick. He does some really beautiful landscapes. He just starts out with his brush right away. He's been doing it so often that the block-in technique works with it. And, you know, there is drawing involved within landscape painting, but not as necessary or exact of drawing as with a figure. I have to talk to him about that. I think he would agree with that statement. He'll probably have some nuances there because he's been doing landscapes for decades. And a full-time artist, you know, my hero. But yeah, try that out, Alexi. Challenge there. And let us know what you find out. Yeah, after you do a couple paintings like that, you know, one where you're timing yourself, and the next one, hey, good morning. There's another Bevan in this live stream right now. That's my mother. Hi, Mom. Good morning. Welcome to the live stream. Thanks for showing up. East Coast. It's 7:30 there, 7:20, something around there. So now I can't talk bad about my mother. I'm kidding. It never would. Now that she's here. She watches these live streams all the time. But yeah, check that out, Alexi. I'm interested in if you would come back to us and say, yeah, they take about the same amount of time. And then in that instance, if each method takes the same amount of time, which one would produce the best painting? That's wonderful, Mom. Thank you. Oh, the one thing I would say, Alexi, is if you do the same painting twice, like within the same method, don't use that as your judgment, because the second painting will always be better. Because you've done it once, you're going to, so it's not going to be a true scientific test. So do it with a few of them. If it's the same, if it turns out the same time frame, like it's about the same time. Or you might find that, let's say you're doing, what do you paint, Alexi? Tell me what you paint. But you may find that you're a lot faster with the block-in technique, but you're less happy with the result. That's why you should do that one second. That would be a really clear indication, because you've done it once with a drawing technique, then the second time when you've painted it with a block-in technique and it's not as good, even though you've done it twice, that would be a clear indication that the drawn technique would be much more helpful for you. What's important there is you find out what works for you. I could give you all kinds of suggestions of, some possibilities that you can try. But what's really important is that you find something that, helps you with your art to get better in some way. Because we don't need another me on this planet. There's already a me. There's already, a million other artists out there. Don't copy them. Steal from them. Steal some ideas, make it your own. But find out what works for you, and let's get more of you in your artwork. Yeah, that's one thing I write down every day. Well, I don't write it down, but I have it on my protocol sheet that I look at every day, which is right here. Is help artists become better versions of themselves. Because I could say help artists become better draftsmen, but I really don't know what that is. As soon as you define that, someone else says, well, no, that's not what better draftsman is for me. So it's important that we keep it open and we say just better versions of who you are. So that's what I want to help you do, Alexi. Just let me know, what do you like to paint? Actually, that's a good question for everyone in here. What do you like to paint? What would you, if you're just painting random stuff right now and you don't know, what would you love to paint if you trained and knew how? Yeah, one day when I have a bunch of people in this stream, I think um, it, I may have to get someone to monitor it for me. But I like kind of seeing all the comments and everything as it is. Hopefully one day I have hundreds of people that show up for my stream. That would be kind of cool. I would have to pay somebody to monitor it. I would probably get more answers to my questions as well. So Thinker asks, so for your best in show, you found a picture that struck you and started from there instead of an idea? 10 thumbnail sketches, 3 compositions? Yes, that is correct. If you look at my website and the painting section, and actually this is a really important point that I'd like to bring up that you make there, Thinker. I prefer this new process more than anything. Because it's so much more, I don't know, let's do it again. Let's look at my website one more time. So if I go to, let's say, the paintings, and let's go back to vulnerability 3. So this is 9/18/2021. I want to get an idea of time frame here. And then I go to my drawings in a new tab. So this is 2020. So through this drawing series that I did, so this was a fandom fitness drawing series. It's supposed to be for a book that me and my wife are creating to connect fandoms such as Star Trek and Sherlock and Harry Potter and Indiana Jones and heroes to a fitness routine for inspiration. But we couldn't do the book because, you know, trying to get licensed for all these. If we made a book with all these characters, yeah, we would get sued like crazy. But with the Spock drawing and with these drawings, what I figured out for the most part, and it's, you can see me kind of going back and forth, is the idea, the emotion is the most important thing in art. And I really figured it out here, like, oh man, okay, this is what art is all about. And from there, you know, Spock, I tried to draw him in a particular way that described logical. Harry Potter, this is about, not to give that away, but more about the end of his life. This was more about a father-son connection with Indiana Jones. Martin Luther King, I'm trying to describe courage and energy and power there. With Storm from Marvel Comics, I'm addressing some, specifics within that genre and different things. I'm trying to figure out who these characters are and describe that within charcoal and graphite, right? But within my paintings, so if I go back to my paintings and around that time, so that was April 2020 or May 2020. You can see that I'm still, I'm doing a still life, so it is what it is. And this is from a photo. I'm doing papers. So these are from photos. This is exactly from a photo. These are all from photos. Yeah, every single one of these are directly from photo. But I'm starting to break away here with vulnerability 2 and 3, especially 3, but it's more based in texture. But I haven't figured out how to get that connection of emotion into my figurative works. And So I'm using just imagery and I'm trying to crop them in certain ways. And at this point, I'm like, okay, well, I can't get the images that I want, so I'm gonna take a photo of myself, right? And then it's kind of digital and landscape from there. I've been doing a more like in between this time, 317, 916, it's just a bunch of digital art. And through the digital, I'm finding that I can work up these paintings that have emotion, these compositions that have emotion. I took some courses, School of Visual Storytelling, the Creative Composition course, and other composition courses to try and communicate, to tell stories, to have narrative. And honestly, as I'm looking back at this, the only painting that I have that has a narrative to it right now, that has figures in it, is on my easel right now. And I can't wait to finish that one. And I did work that up through this digital process. Actually, I didn't do the composition. I didn't do the composition thing where we went through all the thumbnails, and I'm kicking myself for it. I went back to that mode that, this is, not thinking, just do it the same way I always do it. Just because. And, I didn't think about, this whole design process that I created. But the painting's halfway done. I've already recorded a lot of tutorial on it. It's going to be up for sale. Painting and the tutorial itself. But, yeah, I'm still working on getting emotion in my artwork, narrative, story in my artwork. This will be the second painting that I feel like I could grab some kind of narrative or emotion. Now, that's not to say that it can't be done with just an image. If you find an image that has emotion in it already, or if you take an image of yourself or a figure or a landscape or a still life that has the emotion that you want to communicate, by all means, go for it. You already have it there. Like half the, 90% of the work is done for you. Why go through the process? But if you start with an idea, if you have this idea, I have this idea where I want to, address inequality or address what it means to be courageous, resilient, to never give up. Actually, I go to my wife for a lot of the ideas. As a writer, she just comes up with things. I mean, she's so creative. She's much more creative than I am. I mean, I'm visually creative as far as like coming up with visuals. But as far as ideas, I mean, it's like every day she has a brand new idea that's fantastic. Maybe that's what I should do. I should take a course in writing. Actually, as I remember, Steve Houston, if you guys don't know, Steve Houston created a book, Figure Drawing for Artists, fantastic figurative works. He taught for years and years and years. The last time I heard him talking about something on a YouTube video, that was probably years ago that he did that, but he was taking writing courses. The more I think about it, the more I think that that's probably where it's at as far as creating some kind of narrative in your artwork. I mean, I've read a lot of books. I mean, recently it's been a lot of personal development, so not a lot of story in there. Well, actually, I take that back. there's a lot that I've actually pulled out of personal development that I've made videos about here, on my YouTube channel to help other artists with what I call the other side of art: time management, motivation, organization, all kinds of stuff. All that boring stuff that we don't want to deal with. I just want to draw. But there's a lot of concepts in there. And perseverance is, this idea of the Tigers is only successful 4% of the time, yet keeps going. This idea of perseverance that we're trying to describe in this painting that we're working on came from a personal development book. I believe it was the book It Takes What It Takes, which is a fantastic book. I need to read that one over and take some notes on it. So that was a very long-winded answer to, no, I didn't work it up the same as this. Thinker. I've been on the artist journey. Still on the artist journey. Yeah, I'll be on it till the day I die, definitely. That's an interesting thing, is if how we go and we see movies and things like that, and we're moved by these movies in some way, maybe emotionally, maybe just excitement because it's the latest Marvel blockbuster, right? But there's an emotion there, and they are masters of storytelling. Taking what we can learn from the movie industry, from Hollywood, because they combine visuals along with a bunch of visuals. They got 30 frame or 24 frames a second. We only have one. But they have music, they have voice, they have text, they have everything to their advantage. But I think if we put a bit more extra time into it, we can find that. And I did a lot of that research and a lot of that time within those fandom fitness drawings that I was doing. One of my most favorite movies, well, one of the movies I really like a lot, but as far as the Indiana Jones series, what I liked a lot, all the new ones have just been terrible. I haven't seen the latest one, but I don't think I will. But the Last Crusade was fantastic. That was a just absolutely wonderful movie. Years ago, just loved that movie. But if you sit down and think about, how can I make a drawing that describes, the most important part of that movie, or sums up the entirety of that movie, what would it be? And do that with any movie. This is a great way of coming up with stories. Read a book. Oh my gosh, read a book. Read tons of books. Read all the time. Read voraciously. Read like your life depends on it. Read. If you want to expand your mind, expand it beyond what you're thinking right now, read. And I'm not talking like sitting down with a book. You don't have to do that any longer. A lot of the fantasy genre that I read now, I don't bother sitting down for it. I'm doing the dishes listening to the audiobook. And it's to a point now, they're so good that they're not read, they're performed. And boy, my brain is just lighting up at that point. All kinds of ideas. I was reading a book I read a book called The Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler. And there's always this question, especially by younger adults or young kids, why read? Why is it important to read? And I think I asked that when I was young to the teacher, and they basically said, because I told you to. And that doesn't explain anything. That doesn't give me any kind of motivation to read. That just makes me want to not read. Thank you. That wasn't helpful. But a very practical way of looking at it is the ROI, the return on investment for reading, is like 10,000 times greater than anything else. He was talking about all the things that he's done research on. This is a guy that was a journalist for years, so if he puts anything down, he'll do like a ton of research first. And he says, a blog post takes me about 2 days to write, or 3 days, maybe a week or something. I can't remember what he said, but some research on the topic to, some time to get the words right. And so you read a blog post, it probably takes you about 5-10 minutes. And you're getting about, 5 or 6 days of his life, of his research, of his knowledge. And then an article in like a paper, he spends, a few months, maybe 6 months of doing research, talking with experts, figuring out, all the writing, coming up with the best lines, or cutting things down to their essentials, a lot of editing. So you could read that article in maybe 15-20 minutes, and you've got 6 months of his time. And then he says, the book you're reading right now has taken me 2.5 decades to research and write. And he says with, whatever word count the book was, probably takes me, I'm a slow reader, probably take me like 5 days to read the book. In 5 days, you can read enough information that you're gaining 2.5 decades worth of research from. I mean, just the practical ROI on reading is huge. Then there's all the aspects of, increase your vocabulary, blah, blah, blah. These are kind of boring ideas, but an English teacher I used to know, he would always get that question a lot. And he would say, we read because it expands us as a person. It makes us more interesting individuals. There's a level of knowledge there that is really important. Okay, I need to move some things around. And why aren't you talking about the art that you're doing right now, Chris? Yeah, let's do that. Let's get back to the art stuff. Okay, so, wow, this is really confusing to see if you're just coming in. But I'm basically continuing to draw. Oops, I did not want to move that tiger. Continuing to draw the tiger's body all the way down. And actually, this would be a good point to check it. Always check your drawings, you know, by backing up. I don't do that often enough. And I need to have something to check it against. So I gotta turn that back on. Stop moving the wrong drawing, Chris. This whole idea of getting on the right layer all the time is, you know, something that's going to take years for me to get used to. Oh no, did I draw all of that on the wrong layer? See, man, I do that all the time. But that's okay. At least it was on a separate layer and not over the image. If you do this, don't panic. It's not a problem. What you do is you're on the layer that you drew on, and you can select everywhere but the other thing that's on there, and Control X. Okay, it'll go away. And then over the layer you want it on, go Control V. It'll paste it back there. And then Control E to merge it down. And now it's on the right layer. See, that's all there. So did you get that? So hit your S for selection tool, select what you want, Control X to cut it out of there, put it, and then paste it right above the layer that you want to work on. And then Control E to merge it back down. But it has to be above, because it'll merge it correctly that way. So this is more just the line drawing. Not getting into the value yet. The body's going really quickly though. So I'm going to move the reference image over to the left so that I can work on the backside. And I'm going to make sure that I'm on the correct layer now. Hey, it's not just me, guys. I've watched so many videos of digital artists, and they're like, oh, I put that on the wrong layer. Oh, well, got to merge everything. But, you know, the more you do it, it's not a big deal. The more skill you get, like, it's the less layers you really need. I would think. Not 100% certain on that one. Because I'm not super skilled at this. Not gonna put on false airs here and tell you, oh yeah, I'm the best digital artist ever. You should follow me for everything. No. So I'm focusing just on the stripes for the tiger. And while I focus on these, what I'm mainly looking at is the subtle transitions and how they describe the form. How they wrap around this leg, the back leg of this tiger, and give an indication of the roundness of the leg, or the lack thereof. So there is this course online. It's called the Curriculum for the Solo Artist. And what it is, I forget the name of the people that created it. I think it was, I can't remember. I'm not even going to try to remember those names. But so this is a course based, it was just a collection of, kind of like an A to B, 1 to 20. Actually, it's 9 terms, term 1 through term 9, of all the resources that they could collect, the best resources they could collect at the time online for improving your skills as a draftsman. It's based in draftsman, based in figurative work. Perfect for what, I wanted to do. Figurative work, figurative stuff. And what's great about it is a lot of those resources are free. Most, some are paid, right? And when you go through it, you can see that what a logical progression it is. And it's a democratized learning platform. What do I mean by democratized learning? Democratized learning would be not just one person telling you how to draw and paint. Like Chris Bevan, draw and paint like he does, right? Because that's what you'll run into is, little copies of yourself. And I don't want that. But this is, the best resources for perspective, for drawing, for figure drawing, for composition, all these things. So you instead of asking one teacher about perspective, you look at this course and you go, okay, this is the person that you want to go to for learning perspective, or this is the course you want to go to for learning perspective. So that's the power in democratized learning. Well, what's great about this course is you can look at the whole thing from beginning to end, from term 1 to term 9, and get an understanding of where you're going to go with everything. And it's, it's just a logical progression. But the hard thing about it is staying to it. What, me and my good friend Josh, because we were actually on it for a while. If you look at my website, my daily art, you'll see that I was doing that solo artist course for a while, and then kind of pulled away from it. But I was looking for courses for just getting better, and I started with, better digitally. So I went to the best course that I could find that, because I did some research and everybody's like, Craig Mullins is the best digital artist on the planet. Found out that he was basically the creator of digital art in a lot of ways. He started before, digital painting was a thing, with a mouse and I can't remember, the very first version of Photoshop, in the 90s. But I started with his course, and the very first thing that he starts talking about was drawing and form. And these are the things that you need to get right first. He's like, it's all about drawing and form. You get your drawing right, you get your perspective right, you understand the form through the drawing correctly, you light that form, and you're done. That's like, you get that down and everything else is so much easier. And detailed work, like continuing through a painting, are just smaller versions of that. And so I'm like, okay, here's this amazing artist, and he's referring back to these fundamentals that are so important. And it was after that I was taking that course on schoolism, by the way, sorry I didn't mention that, that I found the solo artist course. And guess who's at the bottom in term 9 of that entire course? It's the Craig Mullins course that I started with. And he said, he pointed me back to the beginning of this solo, not specifically, but, I kind of worked this out myself. As I'm looking at this solo artist curriculum, I'm like, wow, here's this master at digital art that points me back to the beginning of this solar artist curriculum, basically. And that, that was actually, liberating in a lot of ways. Didn't feel negative about it or anything. It was like, wow, okay, here's another indication of the way to get good, to get better, to improve. So how does that pertain to what I'm doing right now? As I'm doing these stripes, I'm thinking about the drawing, the perspective, and especially the form. As these stripes curve over the body, I can see this tiger. I can see the indentation in the side of his body, or their body. And it's given me an understanding of how this form flows. Through that understanding, I could throw any light on this from any direction and be able to light it correctly. The one thing that I don't know well, that I'm a real novice on, is painting and drawing something that's directly out of my head. But through these methods of drawing, form, looking at photography, photos and things to get ideas and pull small bits and pieces from every place. Through all that and all this learning and focusing on the drawing and the form, that's where it can happen. Where eventually you get to a point where you don't need to have a figure positioned in a certain way to be able to draw it well. You can just, draw the figure out of your head. To me, that's kind of, the next level for my art. Moving further and further away from photography, from photos. It's definitely possible. You see it done all the time. Look at working digital artists now, or comic book artists, coming up with amazing compositions and figures out of their head all the time. They started out the same way, drawing from the figure, understanding it, putting in all the time and effort. I will say though, comic book is rather stylistic in a lot of ways. I think because they come up with a lot of methods. Which is totally fine. Okay, I'm going to finish this last stripe down here. Let's see, let's back up. Hide my reference. There we are. It's a very light drawing right now. I started getting dark around the eyes, probably because, it's like when you're drawing with pencil, the more you work on something, the darker it gets. So I spent a lot of time there. Did I forget some stripes on the left, or let's see. No, it's just kind of bare there. I could probably throw in some stripes in the left side of the front leg, a little bit more, maybe on that side. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. So that's the body of the tiger. And the head. Our main focal point for this painting is finished. I'm really ecstatic about the way this looks so far. I think, where we've come from. Let's look at, yeah, there you go. There's our composition from the thumbnails that we were working on. We blew up our last composition sketch into this size. So we still have our lighting conditions, have some color palettes that we're going to be pulling over as well. Got the position for the tiger. Now we have the real drawing of that tiger. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to this composition and we're going to get specific with the drawing. These main actors here, these palm fronds that are there, maybe that big bulky tree that's in the background. There's a tree on the left, and then the rest of it will be really kind of fuzzed out in a lot of ways. Just getting some specifics in there. I think a stick or something to kind of up here at the top that's dark to keep the viewer's eye into the composition, into the focal point, which is right here. So we'll continue with the drawing tomorrow. That will be on a new layer, and I'm going to name this layer Tiger and Rock. I'm going to lock that as well. And this is going to be background. Background jungle. All right, there we are. Thanks, guys, for joining me. I appreciate you. Thanks for showing up. Thanks, Thinker. Thanks, Mom. I will talk to you soon. Call you every Thursday. You know that. Anyway, thanks for showing up. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful Friday. Happy Friday for those of you that work. I think I got 2 retirees in here. I don't really work either. Yeah, catch you later. Love you. Okay, see you guys tomorrow.